And this is how I made my first $100,000 in property investment. Hi, I'm Sean.
And I'm Ivan.
And together we are the co-founders of
iQuadrant.
Today I'm going to talk about my first property investment and how I actually made $100,000. And this is actually the completion account. You do not know what's a completion account, just means that when you sell a property, you go through a lawyer, then you do all the deduction, and the end result is that I got a $254,000 back into my bank account. But of course, this also includes the down payment. So later on, I will want to actually break it down for you to actually understand how I actually made $100,000. And one interesting point that I want to point out for you guys is that there is actually 2 times rental deposit over here, which means that yes, I have 2 tenants in this property, and that's what made me actually bought this property in the first place.
So guys, if you'd like to learn more about property investment strategies, tips, and figure out how is the best way to invest, do remember to subscribe to our channel and do give us a thumbs up. So Sean, before you dive into the numbers, right, can you share with us why did you start this property investment journey?
Okay, to share you this point, I need to go a little bit back into where I first started. So I think personally, I am actually I'm an entrepreneur. My dad is an entrepreneur himself as well. So I think it's only a natural path that I go into entrepreneurship. However, although I've started and also failed a couple of businesses, but the one key thing that actually inspired me or basically made me go into property investments because of my previous business failure, which I actually worked on this business for the last 5 years. I made a wrong choice by trusting a wrong mentor. And what happened was that he actually encouraged me or persuaded me to actually do a joint venture or a merger with his company, and that resulted me in actually becoming a very minority shareholder. And that by me being a minority shareholder, I ended up losing my entire company within less than 2 years.
Wow, so that's very interesting. That is how it shaped you. Can you tell us more what was your insights into this journey?
I think the key thing that why I started business in the first place, because I believe in this thing called control. I believe in controlling how much I earn, depending on how much effort I put in. And the end result is everything is based on my decisions. The result is always based on my decision. And that is something that I also look for when I want to do anything else. Now, why I went specifically into property investments, because after failing my business, I realized the importance of diversification portfolio. Because how would I ever expect for me to lose my own business? I think that's something that is not even within my whole vision or whatever that I think could happen. And therefore, I went to property investment. And why specific property investments? Is because I felt that property investment have the most control out of all investment asset classes that I've actually explored. For example, I actually explored stocks, explored forex. But one thing that I couldn't take it emotionally was the market volatility. I really didn't like to see my money go from 50k to 40k, and that's something that I cannot take emotionally. And therefore, I actually just went to property investment. And at the same time, of course, I was also very fortunate and lucky to meet someone like you who could inspire me to actually start on this entire journey.
So the thing is, in my own personal journey, right, what I realized is that my family business was single source dependent, and that made me realize that I better make sure I diversify my business too. And when I chanced upon property investment, I actually realized that the numbers make sense, the ROI makes sense, and that was where I dived deep into property itself. So the thing is, Sean, I also want to ask you, so how did you actually get started?
Actually, getting started was really difficult for me, because when buying property means that you at least need 100 over 1,000, 200,000, sometimes even way more than that. And that is something that I obviously do not have. So I really needed to be very creative in terms of how I actually get started. But the key is this, is that I actually managed to identify what I call the value of the particular property. And if I know that this property is worth, let's say it's going to make me $100,000 in the future, $200,000 in the future, then that actually then gives me the motivation to then find the means to actually acquire this property. And that's just started out from the core motivation first.
Right. So I actually agree with you, Sean. So the thing is, when I first started to look at investing in buying a $600,000 property, it was actually pretty scary. So even though I had the means to fully pay, the number is still so huge, and will it work out? Will I lose money? That was my fears like that gripped me.
And so can you imagine you could fully pay the property and you had fear? Can you imagine my fear times 6 times 10 because I don't even have the down payment for it? So I mean that's the position where I started out from. However, I won't forget, I was also in a position where I would say that I had very little to lose. And therefore, at point of time, I was willing to take a bigger risk to get out of the position that I was in, which means I lost my business, I did not have much cash, I did not have much, but I have a family. So I have a very small family. At point in time, my kids were like, 3 years old and 1 year old. So they were young. So I needed to do something radically different from what I used to be doing, and therefore I just went into property investment. I just went in, I spot the opportunity, I bought this unit, then I went to find the cash for the down payment. And of course, the first person that actually supported me in my entire journey was actually my family, and was actually my older sister. So my older sister actually came and gave me, not give lah, in a way invested together with me for this property. And I still remember the sum, it was $37,250.
Wow.
Yes.
You remember the exact figure.
I remember the exact figure. That was really very significant to me. And that also gives me an entire whole perspective change. Because if I can actually get or convince someone like my sister to actually get on this journey with me, why can't I do it for others? And therefore, what I did next was actually that I went out to my other friends and family, share them this particular opportunity that I found, and then that is where I got 3 other person to actually join me in this journey, and that is how I actually got my first down payment for this particular property.
Wow, very nice. So the thing is, Sean, I want to bring you back to the earlier point, right, where you said you had very little to lose. So what if you have made this choice, take on this bet, right, and you made a wrong choice? What will happen?
I think that in life, there are a lot of choices that you can make, and you will never know will it turn out well or not. I give one simple example. My business was a very good example. To me, I took very little risk. I started a service business, which means I didn't need to come out capital. So by right, I had very little risk, but then and very high rewards. However, that also didn't pan out. So in this scenario, looking at property by itself, it's just, to me, it's just a tool, it's just a vehicle that I see, and I could be confident in the predictability of the growth. Similarly, calculate the ROI. I calculated it as well, and I felt that it's really easy to achieve the ROI that makes sense for me, and therefore I went into it. So it really, risk is really in perspective in terms of how much you know and what are the actions that you're going to take afterwards. Me failing in my business did not mean that I failed as an entrepreneur. I went on to start more businesses that became more successful as well. So I think it's just part of the journey, and if you think that you're going to fail in the first place, then of course you're definitely going to fail. But I did not even have that perspective at all. At the point of time, I just knew that I only can succeed. Failure wasn't an option, and therefore I had that confidence to go ahead.
Wow, that's like super fantastic, man. Wow, I really think that you have super a lot of drive. So the thing is, when I first started investing into like properties, right, what I realized that it's actually hard assets, and like having a hard asset means that it's like I buy into a space, and if it doesn't work out, the investment actually will not evaporate into nothing, okay? So the property price may reduce, but the thing is, I'll still get a steady rental income here and there. And I think my downside will be more or less like I will break even on the investment, and the key is, if my downside is capped, and there's like a potential upside with like capital appreciation, or like if I buy under value and get it like that
value appreciation.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, and I also get rented at the same time. So this is how I see that. This is the reason why I invest in the properties.
And that's the exact same mindset that I had when I actually chose this first property. Because likewise, if let's say there isn't a tenant, what I could do is just to reduce the rental, and that would likely get it rented out. And then I realized this one thing, is that in the real actual cost to maintain the property is interest, MCST and tax, which is really not difficult to outbid in terms of the rent. So that is where, with this calculation and ROI in mind, that's where I'm confident, because my worst case scenario would have been to actually keep this property for a longer period of time, just 5-6 years, and have the continuous rental, or in this case, principal. If you have not watched Principal, please watch one of the video on how it works. The principal would have accumulated to actually then at least break even on the property, even if the property price were to drop. But of course, that being said, that wasn't a scenario, and I actually ended up making money.
When we are talking about buying a property itself, right, it's actually a huge quantum, and like when you are talking about down payment, it's no joke. So actually, how do you handle that on an emotional basis? Were you like scared?
First of all, I was extremely scared. But what I did was actually to treat it like a business. And just that in this scenario, I'm buying into a asset. So in the business, the product is actually the property that I'm going to buy, and my client is actually the tenant that's going to rent my property. And that is why I was more confident when I started putting on a business mindset, because that is when I have more experience in. And the most important thing is I'm not going to buy anything like a consumer product where I do not know what is the value of it. And therefore, I don't expect, and I will not expect this property to just suddenly drop in value overnight. As long as, at the end of the day, there's still tenants and I'm still able to have control over how much I'm going to rent it out for, and that actually then gives me the confidence.
Yeah. So actually when I first started investing into properties, right, I was also terrified, and I wasn't very sure whether is it the right thing to do. So that was where I took some action, I had some experience, right? And then I got good results, and that was where I started to progress even more and more. So Sean, was finding the right property easy for you?
It's not easy, it's hard, but then it became easy afterwards. So of course I had to go down and find like 20, 30 over units, and then of course shortlisted into what that last 1 or 2 units that luckily I had 2 tenants as well, and therefore my rental is actually higher than normal. So it's a very tedious journey, but the buying itself is, of course, is more emotional. I felt scared in the buying, but that's not the hard part. The hard part is actually really the whole viewing of the property, knowing what to look for. And it's almost the same like if I was going to start, let's say, a new business, and let's say I want to sell laptops. There's so many laptops out there, so many brands out there, to the point that you can get confused. And therefore, I really specifically want to look for that laptop that had the most value for money. So in this case, the highest specification for the lowest cost possible. And in this scenario, I know that this is something that the market wants.
Actually, I think it's like almost similar like investing in stocks, whereby I actually have to study multiple stocks and to find the one with sound fundamentals and is like undervalued at the same time to buy in. And to be frank, when I was investing into property itself, I went through a very similar journey whereby I had to view like a lot of properties, like more than 22, more than 20 properties, and after viewing them, that's where I get the experience and understanding what is a good property versus like what is a not so good to invest in kind of properties, and that is the journey I went through.
Same here.
So Sean, after buying the property, what was your selling journey like?
So I had this property for 3 years, and the selling was surprisingly fast, really fast in fact. So the reason why I even want to sell in the first place, although this is making me good money, is because I had a better investment to actually invest in. So I actually came across another property that was easily 10+% undervalued, and I really just wanted to sell this property to then reinvest in this property so that I can make more. So the selling took about 3+ weeks. Actually, I listed in the market for 3+ weeks and sold it very quickly. But one thing which I think that I could improve on is that I made a decision to sell on a timeline, and therefore I personally know that I could have sold higher. But just because of the fact that I had a better opportunity, I chose to let it go at what I call, I would still consider it as a slightly below market value, but it's still higher price as compared to what I bought, which is 745,000, and I sold it at 790,000.
Actually, to be frank, that's like something I too will advocate or like will go for, which is that I would rather take a slightly lower price to sell, but then at the same time I gain time, and with this time, right, I can take my money and reinvest into another opportunity. So Sean, so what are the numbers that you getting like for this property investment itself? Are you able to run through this with us?
Sure.
So guys, this is the time that we have been waiting for, which is for Sean to review his numbers. But before that, do remember to subscribe to our channel and also to give us a thumbs up if you have been learning something so far. So do give us a thumbs up whether you learned or did not learn anything, okay? So Sean, can you tell us about your numbers now?
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so this is once again the completion account. How you're going to read it is that I sold this for $790,000. Then I got a plus my rental, which is 2568 over here, plus my rental 1605, which I got for the last 3+ years. And I actually calculated what, after minus out all my expenses of interest, MCST, tax, actually came out to a number of $57,181. So I got to minus what I owe to the bank, which in this scenario was $573,000. So I minus $573,009.81, minus the down payment that I initially put up, which is $149,000, and minus out all other expenses such as agent fee, morning renovation fee that I put in, which came up to actually be exactly $26,050. And the total figure would have been a total profit, net profit of $99,121. So sorry lah, never hit 100,000. Very close to $100,000, okay?
Yeah, so from this one property purchase, you made like 99,000. So Sean, the question is, how much are you going to like share with us, or are you going to treat us to like lunch or dinner? And we want to put it on video, right? That you say that, okay?
Okay, I tell you the truth. The $99,000 came to my bank account and went out in like 2 days.
Basket.
Because remember, I had another investment opportunity and it immediately pretty much went out. So, bro, now I need you to treat me.
What the heck? Okay, so guys, if you have been learning something from this video so far, do remember to give us a thumbs up again. And I hope you learned something today. And we will see you soon. Bye.